Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're actually going to be trying a full face of new makeup. So let me pin the hair back, I'll zoom you in and we can get started. Alright, so we have the hair pin back and I have already prepped my skin with my Rough for Intense Hydration Cream. That is still just my absolute favorite. Nothing hydrates my skin like that cream. I do want to start with the eyes first though, because the palette I want to use I have tried and reviewed for you already, but I want to try it again because it did raise some concerns with me when I tried it out. So this is the new Charlotte Tilbury Beautifying Eye Trends palette in Super Neutral. So I did also review the warm palette and the green palette. I will try to leave that video linked down below if you want to check out the full in-depth review, but some of the shimmers did give me a little bit of fallout, so I do want to do my eyes first. And to prep my eyes, I actually finished up my Alter Ego eyeshadow base. That is still such a favorite of mine. I love that product. But I did recently receive from City Beauty the lid lifting treatment, and I've been trying this out for the last week or so, and this actually is really good. So this is supposed to give a more lifted and smoothed look to the eyelids, but it can also act as an eye primer. Now I do have oily eyelids, so I was a little skeptical when I first tried this out, but it does just come in this cute little squeeze tube, and I just take a little bit. It just looks like this. And I just apply that all over the lid area. So I do feel like this lid lifting treatment really does sort of make my eyes look a little bit more open. I do have semi-hooded lids, so I don't have the most lid space all the time, but I do feel like it makes my eyes look a little bit more open and just makes me look a little bit more awake, which I do very much appreciate. So I really like that, and it's tacky when you first put it on, but it really doesn't retain a lot of that tackiness. I know for an eyeshadow primer, some people do prefer something a little bit more tacky so that it's going to grip the eyeshadows. I don't want something sticky because then it just grabs the shadows. So far I am really enjoying the lid lifting treatment. This might actually be one of my absolute favorites from City Beauty. So getting into our palette here, I do want to create somewhat of a simpler eye look, but I do want to play with these shades. I think I am going to start with that middle shade right here. And I am going to use that to sort of set down my eye primer. Now this clear packaging is what has caused so much drama with these palettes. It was designed with working makeup artists in mind who don't have time to flip through all of their palettes to see what's what, and the clear lids really help them, much like the Dior Backstage palettes. So I really don't mind, especially knowing that they are sort of created with that in mind. And quite honestly, I like the formulas in here much more than I like that of the Dior Backstage palettes. So that is a really nice creamy shade for me, and it also sort of canceled anything out because this is such a great primer, but it's not tinted, so it doesn't actually cancel anything out underneath, whereas this shade kind of just did that for me. So my initial review, this shade here is the one that gave me some trouble, so I am going to try it again to see if I was the problem. And though I do understand the purpose of the packaging of these palettes, I do find myself missing a mirror. Okay, I'm gonna start by putting this one in the crease. It's definitely not as noticeable as the first time, but there is definitely still a little bit of patchiness right here. Okay, let's try on the other eye. I was kind of hoping that the issue was all mine and I had just not set my primer down very well, because that does sometimes happen, especially when I'm creating multiple looks in a day. This side seemed to behave pretty well. Okay, so I am still noticing a tiny bit of patchiness right here, but I do think it is behaving better than the first time. So now I think I do want to sort of dust that shade all over the lid, just very lightly. I don't want too much pigment, and I'm really not going for a very intense eye look today. If you can hear any background noise, I don't know if you can, but if you can, it's because we are getting the most crazy snowstorm today. I feel like the last few years, our winters have almost been a little bit more mild, and then this year I feel like winter is really just trying to fit itself all into February. It's insane. Over the last week we've gotten a couple of really good snowstorms, but today in particular is supposed to be the worst one. And I woke up this morning and my car was pretty buried around 8:30, and by 10 it was gone. Like I could not see my car. So that tells you how much snow we're getting today. I have not seen this much snow in a really long time. Okay, so aside from this one little area over here that's a little bit patchy, I do feel like this shade performed a little bit better today. That being said, it's not perfect. Okay, so before I go in with the shimmer, I am going to go into this shade and try to create a tiny bit of an eyeshadow wing. And I'm using my Sony GT1 brush. I just really enjoy this brush. This is like the smudger brush I've always wanted because it has enough flexibility to actually smudge things out. Alright, so the liner's done. I don't necessarily know that it's even, but I did the best I could. I do want to go into this shade right here. This is kind of more of a silver looking shade, but I do think it's going to give a really beautiful wet iridescent look to the lid, so let's try it. Oh, it is really pretty actually. That does look very wet. I love that. I do want to take a little bit of this shade right here too. I think I want to try to put this a little bit more in the center to sort of help it mesh a little bit better. Okay. I do like how that came together a little bit better. So same thing on the other side, starting with that more white shade. I do think it's so pretty. These shades are intensely sparkly, and the formula of both of these shimmers I'm putting on my eyes are called Diamond Dimension. So they are meant to be super intensely wet looking, and I think she did a really good job with them, to be honest. She does have some regular shimmers in here as well. Those are called Molten Satin shades, and those are beautiful as well. These Diamond Dimension shades are just on another level. They're so pretty. Just back into that more taupe diamond shade. So I really like how that came together. I am glad I did my eyes first because I definitely do have some fallout. So I'll just clean that up and we can get into mascara. All right, for mascara, I'm using the L'Oreal Lash Paradise Big Deal Mascara. I've always been a fan of the original Lash Paradise, but I am not someone who reviews mascaras as often just because I try not to keep too many open at the same time. That being said, I just finished up my Charlotte Tilbury Exaggerized Mascara and I really did like that one. So we are going to use this one today and I have really been enjoying it. The only thing I want to point out about this one is that it is a rubber bristle wand, so I have to be careful not to get too close to my lash line. But this does give a really beautiful amount of length to the lashes. However, it's not going to be a very good one for volume. It's not going to give you a lot of volume at the root. So just keep that in mind, but this is going to be a really great lengthening mascara. This does have potential to get a little bit clumpy. It does say you can keep building it, but I do think it has clump potential. That's just one thing to keep in mind, but I do think it's a really pretty mascara in general. I think it's a really great everyday mascara. If you're not looking for an overly intense lash and you just want long fanned out lashes, I think this is great for that. So for concealer, I was sent the Sigma Beauty Spectrum Color Correcting Duo in light to medium, so I really want to try this today. I did wear it yesterday, but I wasn't really testing it, so I just kind of noticed that I liked how it looked right away on initial application, but this is what the packaging looks like. I think it's so pretty. I could not believe Sigma sent me a package. This is a brand I've admired for so long. I have so many of their palettes. I really love and enjoy them, and I was just over the moon to get a package from them. They did send me their Warm Neutrals palette, which I actually wanted to use today, but because I'm still trying to get my thoughts on the Charlotte Tilbury, I decided to go with that. But we are going to test out this little color correcting duo. So it does look like this shade is a little bit deeper, so it might be great for spot concealing on the face. This one is going to be beautiful right under the eyes. So I'm just going to grab my BK Beauty A506 into that product, concealing some of that blue inner corner. Actually sort of dragging this out where I would put my concealer. I think that did a really nice job under my eyes actually. I don't even know if I want to use an actual concealer under there. I think that did a lovely job of concealing and brightening my under eyes. I think you can really tell the difference. That looks really nice. And I just kind of kept it in the areas that I need it. I didn't go up too far. And that actually works well because I don't have a new concealer to try out. I think that looks really nice. And I feel like that is honestly so quick and convenient for every day. Okay, I think that looks beautiful. And it doesn't even feel like I need to set it. and it's not creasing or doing anything weird. This is really, really lovely. Okay, let's get into the foundation. So this is a foundation I've heard a lot of good things about. This is a new drugstore foundation. This is from Maybelline, and this is their 30-Hour Wear Lumi Matte Foundation. I have mine in the shade 102. The packaging on this is so pretty. I love the little purple lid. It does have a plastic pump. So this is pretty new from Maybelline, and I've heard some really good things. This is supposed to be definitely a very matte foundation. Let's try it out. I'm going to start with my BK Beauty 101. This is my favorite for foundations, and this is a bit of a thicker foundation formula, so this is perfect. This is also supposed to give us a really nice full coverage. That shade looks like it's going to be spot on for me. That makes me happy. I find it really, really hard, especially at the drugstore, to get a really good shade match just because I feel like they have some amazing formulas. There's no doubt about that. But I feel like they also kind of have a really hard time with undertones. And the undertones aren't always described in the shade. So it's really hard to pick a good one. Okay, this is giving a really, really nice coverage. There is no doubt about that. It's definitely hiding the things that are making me a little self-conscious. It has quite a smell to it though, I will say. It definitely has that paint thinner scent, which is very off-putting to me. I can't stand that smell. It's kind of the same as what's in their little Superstay foundation in the dropper. I love that one, but the scent is very off-putting, and I would say the same for this. It's very, very strong. But I would say the shade match is perfect. It definitely does look very matte, and it actually does seem to set down. I don't know if I'm actually going to need to powder this. This does strike me as one, though, that if you do have dry skin, you're really going to want to make sure your skin is prepped really well, because it does feel like it has potential to be a little bit too dry. So for me, the Refer Intense Hydration Cream appears to be enough, but I feel like if I didn't prep as well as I need to, I would know about it. This is also not feeling too heavy, so that is a common concern I have with these matte foundations, because we are starting to see matte foundations that are very lightweight on the skin. They're not too heavy. They're also working with dry skin types. We're seeing a lot of those lately, and that makes me really, really happy. But I am still cautious about them because I'm naturally expecting some of those more 2016 matte foundations. But this is not that. I would say this is definitely very lightweight and comfortable. Of course, you do need to prep the skin if you have a dry skin type like me, but this is also buildable, which I was just trying to do, and I feel effectively canceled out right now. I feel like that looks really, really nice. Like I said, it definitely canceled me out, but if you are looking for a good, fully matte foundation, this is going to do it. Okay, so not bad from Maybelline. I have really liked their foundations in the past, so I'm not shocked that I like this. I decided not to do a full day wear test on this just because I know it's been out for a little bit at this point, but so far I'm really, really liking it. But so far I think this looks really, really nice. I know Lawless recently came out with a new matte foundation, and it did pop up on the Sephora app early access, but it was showing out of stock at Sephora Canada. So I thought, okay, well, fine, maybe tomorrow when it's available for everyone, it'll be available, and now it's just gone off Sephora Canada. So I don't know what's going on there. For bronzer, I have the new Rare Beauty Liquid Contour. I have been playing with this for a few weeks. This is in the shade Gentle, and this is a really, really pretty shade for me. And this does lean cool, but I have actually just used it as a bronzer a couple times. And in the package I got from Sigma, they did send me their Multitasker F47 brush. This kind of looks like my BK Beauty 101 because it is angled, sort of the same way. So I think I want to use this for my contour. It's a little bit smaller than the 101 though. So you can see the 101 versus the F47. BK Beauty is definitely a lot larger. So I think I might really like this one for contour and maybe cream blush, but that's what we're going to do today. Oh, it's really, really soft. Okay, so I like this brush, and I have really been enjoying the cream contour as well. The shade Gentle is really perfect for me. I do think this blends out so easily, And although it's pigmented, it's not as intense as the Rare Beauty blushes. I like the liquid blushes fine, but they're not favorites. I just find them way too much. This I don't find to be too much. I have been really enjoying the liquid contour. That blended out so quickly and easily. All right, same thing on the other side. I think I might go in with a powder bronzer on top, but I don't have a new powder, so I might just go in with my Lancome as I do. I'm not always huge on liquid products, but this one is really good. I do have some liquid products that I like, but I am always very much more inclined to reach for my powders first. Yeah, I think that looks really nice. And I just want to set that with some powder, so I'm just grabbing my trusty Lancome bronzer that I love so much. And before I go into blush, I am going to do my brows before I forget to go into them all together. And I actually have a new brow product to share with you. This is from Maybelline, and this is their Super Fluff Brow Mousse. I have the shade Soft Brown, and I have been on a mission to find the best Auburn brow products, but this shade does work pretty well. So I will give it that. And I have really been enjoying this. The reason is because it does a really great job of filling in the brows. It also holds them in place, and even though the wand is a little bigger than I would typically like for a brow product, it does somehow work really well, and it does allow me to shape my brows, which some don't. I tried a product similar to this. I tried the ABH Volumizing Brow Gel, and I finally come to the conclusion that although I love the color, I fully dislike that product. I hate it. It does not work for me. It's just way too messy. I think this is ideally what it's supposed to do, what this Maybelline product does, but if you're wanting something like that, just go with the Maybelline. It's better. It's far better, and it's far easier to use. ABH definitely has a better shade range, but the Maybelline is far better. It just makes my brows so quick and easy. It makes them look full but not blocky, and lifted but not laminated, and just fills them in perfectly. Also holds the hairs in place. Now we can go into blush, and REM Beauty actually sent me one of their Hypernova Satin Matte blushes. They sent me one of their blush sticks as well, but this is the one I wanted to use today. This is in the shade Rose on Mars, and I'm excited because I think it's going to be a really beautiful everyday rosy shade, which I really love. Yeah, that looks beautiful. It has like a really beautiful mauve-y tone to it. Okay, so I'm just going in with my Rephr 19 brush. I do know already that I like this formula from Rare Beauty because I have one of the shades already. I have Peach Planet, and I really like these because they are very buttery, and I am working on a current beauty battle video, but I am working on comparing this formula to the new YSL. So stay tuned for that, but that is one of the comparisons because this is also just a very buttery formula. Oh yeah, the shade is beautiful. It's a perfect rosy shade. These blushes are pigmented, but they're just so buttery and beautiful on the skin. I haven't tried a ton from REM, but I have tried some, and I do think these blushes are one of their very best products. Just based on how they perform, how they blend, how they last on the skin. I just think they're gorgeous. So that is the Rose on Mars blush from REM Beauty. I think that's so pretty. Okay, I am noticing right around my nose, the foundation is looking a little bit dry, and I do think it is settling into my smile lines a little bit. I am an expressive person, so I do expect that, but I do think it looks a little bit dry, so I just want to take a little bit of my Kosas powder, and I just want to put this around my nose. I do not need to set my under eyes because they look so good with the Sigma color corrector. Yeah, my under eyes look brightened and concealed, but also fresh and not dry. I love how that looks so much. I am going to place a little bit of powder toward the outer corner of my lid though, because I have been dealing with allergies pretty aggressively, so my eyes are naturally getting pretty watery. For highlight, I feel like I've really been enjoying using highlight again. I never really fully got away from it, but it's something that some days I do, some days I don't, but I've really been reaching for it a lot because Ofra sent over some of their highlighters. They sent me a palette with their highlight shades, but they also sent me this single shade in Glazed Donut, and this is the most blinding glowy highlighter, and I can't stop with it. I just think it's so pretty. Like, look at this. Look how bright and beaming that is. You don't always have to go in with this much, but I just think it's so pretty. And the highlighter palette they sent, there are some shades that are a little bit more subtle and not quite as icy, but I do think this is a favorite. I do also love using this for the inner corners of my eyes. I love to just take a little bit and just pop it right there. And it just brightens everything and pulls everything together. And lastly, we have lips. So MAC came out with a whole new, well, I shouldn't say new, they re-released a lot of their original nude shades that we all used to love on so much. They did also release a couple of new nude shades as well. And the shades are, of course, in their new matte or satin formula, depending on the shade you get. So I picked up the shade Cool Spice in the lip liner and Cool Teddy in the lipstick. The lipstick is in their new matte formula. So I do want to go in with this. These shades do match pretty well. So that is just Cool Spice on the lips. Now I do want to mention Cool Spice is a shade that is definitely drawing a lot of attention because everyone loves the original Spice shade, and I do think that's beautiful, but it is warm. Cool Spice is beautiful as well. You can see it's a very sort of My Lips But Better shade, but before you fall into the craze, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that if you have Charlotte Tilbury Iconic Nude, you have the shade. So here are the swatches. On the bottom, I have Cool Teddy. On top, I have Iconic Nude. Now, the Charlotte Tilbury is definitely a lot creamier, but these shades are practically identical. So I just wanted to mention that if you've been tempted to splurge on Cool Spice, just keep that in mind if you have Iconic Nude. All right, going into Cool Teddy. I've worn this a couple of times and I do love it. So Cool Teddy is definitely very, very cool tone, but definitely works with the look I went for today. I actually really, really like how everything came together. So let me take the hair down. I will zoom you out and we can do a little recap. All right, so let's talk about the products we tried out today. First off, the City Beauty Lid Lifting Treatment. I really do love this. I think this is so fantastic. I really do feel like it opens my eyes. It makes me look more awake, and it also doubles as a primer, and it really does hold on to my eyeshadow all day long, which I really greatly appreciate. So I've been really, really loving this, and I think this is going to be a perfect replacement for my Alter Ego eyeshadow base. The Charlotte Tilbury palettes, I do love these. I think these are so good. I know the one shade gave me a little bit of trouble the first time I wore it. Today I noticed a little bit of patching, but it really wasn't bad at all, and I love how today's look came together. I do think this is a beautiful color story and a beautiful palette, and I'm even okay with the packaging on these because I like that I can see which one I'm reaching for, especially because I do have multiple. And I do think this is some of her absolute best formulas. The Sigma Spectrum Color Corrector, this is fantastic. I mean, you saw I didn't use any regular concealer today. I just went in with this and I only used the lightest shade. I used it under my eyes. I used it to clean up around my eye makeup, and I didn't even need to set my under eyes, and I just feel like everything looks really good, really fresh. I'm not worried about my powder kind of caking up under my eyes, so I am really, really excited to keep using this. And I forgot to mention, I did receive this in PR, but they did also give me a code to share with you guys, and that is CHRISTYH, and that can save you 10%. So if you are shopping anything on their website, you can always use that as well. But I do think this is fantastic. I've heard so many people talk about it for so long, and now that I have it, I get it. It's fantastic. I would say the same for their F47 brush. This is so great. This applied my contour beautifully. So I'm also really happy I have this brush. The foundation, I'm going to have to keep testing this, but I do think I really like it. It definitely is matte, so I'm not worried that it's going anywhere. And I did not set my face except for my T-zone where I noticed it was kind of settling into smile lines, but otherwise I didn't set my face anywhere else, and I do not feel like this foundation is going anywhere. It doesn't have any tackiness to it, and it actually does feel very, very lightweight. It doesn't make my skin feel tight and uncomfortable, which some heavier matte foundations can do. This is truly a very matte but very lightweight, comfortable matte foundation. And that's coming from a dry skin type. So far I'm really, really liking this. The only thing I really super do not like is the scent. It is very strong, paint thinner. I don't like that scent. But if the product is good enough, I can deal with it. And so far, I'm thinking it is good enough. My face looks very perfected. The blush from Rem Beauty. I already knew I love this formula, but I really, really do love this shade. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a really great everyday shade. I, of course, have been loving the highlighters from Ofra. I know these have been out for years, but I have really, really been loving this. The Rare Beauty Liquid Contour, I also really like. I think it is very, very easy to blend. The shade Gentle is absolutely perfect for me. It is cool tone, but it has a bit more of a rosiness to it than a gray leaning sort of undertone. So I think I can get away with using this shade as more of a bronzing option, but sometimes I do like to set it with a regular powder bronzer as well. The Brow Fluff from Maybelline, this is absolutely fantastic. Like I mentioned, if you were kind of eyeing the ABH Volumizing Brow Gel, just get this instead. It's better, it performs better, it's not nearly as messy, it fills in the brows without making them look crazy and blocky, it sort of lifts the brows without making them look laminated, and it sets them in place and holds them all day long. This is a fantastic drugstore brow product, and I don't love spending a lot of money on brow products, to be honest with you, so I am going to get so much use out of this. The new Lash Paradise Big Deal Mascara. I like this. I don't love it. I think it does a really, really good job giving some really beautiful length to my lashes, but I do prefer the original Lash Paradise, mostly because even though I do love length, I also love volume. So between the two, I do prefer the original. I like this. I'll definitely use it up, but I don't know that I would repurchase it just because there are some that I like so much more. So it's a good one, but it's not a favorite. I do think if you like just really long, fluffy, separated lashes, you might really like it. As for the MAC lip products, we know I love a good MAC lipstick. I always have, probably always will. So the lipstick I absolutely love, and I really do like this shade as well. The shade Cool Spice and the lip liner I also think is beautiful, but don't lose your mind over it because of the hype, especially if you have the iconic nude from Charlotte Tilbury. But otherwise, I do think it's really nice, and I love how today's look came together. Of course, it is very much leaning into those cool tones, but it feels very appropriate for the type of weather day we're having here. So let me know all of your thoughts down below. Have you tried any of these products? What are your thoughts? Do you like how this look came together? Let me know. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for watching as always. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!